If you look at the most politically active people in America, they're on the left, because the people that are on the right have jobs and they go to work and they focus on their family and they focus on themselves. People on the left tend to be activists. They tend to be people that
focus on the process.
Yeah.
Look, have you talked to people? When Jay Leno did his bit about, he goes in the street and asks, like, who was George Washington? Oh, did he fight in World War II? Like, that's a real problem.
Well,
These people vote. They need to be not voting, and they need to be given a way to vote away their right to vote.
What they need to be is educated and informed.
Nope, not going to happen.
Well, I disagree.
It is happening, though. I think he's right. It is happening. Why is it? Like I said, all the guys in my pod, a lot of black guys from D.C., Hispanic and Puerto Rican and Mexican gangbangers, they all love Trump. They all talk to their families at home. The prices are going up. They understand. They don't like the transgender stuff. They don't like the kids being conditioned. They don't like tampons in boys' bathrooms. They understand the culture war, and we're winning them over in the culture war. I think it's a mistake to say, well, if they're poor or if they're from certain economic backgrounds or ethnic backgrounds, you should dismiss them. I think it's a mistake.
I'm not talking about doing ethnicity. That my equation does not include ethnicity, and chooses people who choose to give up the right to vote voluntarily. So we skip that whole ethnic question, which is obviously very.
I'm just saying, we're winning.
These people might have come over to Trump this time, and that's great. Thank you, cool. But they vote based on incentive. That's people.
No, they don't. They vote.
Do.
Well, okay, maybe they do, but they vote about, like I said, food prices.
Exactly.
What they don't want to see in their schools. They don't like that stuff. Okay. Like a lot of Hispanics are traditionally very pro-family, anti-abortion, etc. They were conned by the Democrats into voting Democrat, despite the fact that
they got
more
benefits. They got
conservative.
social programs and tangible things.
This
is what democracy does.
I disagreed with you, though.
Please.
Okay. So what we're seeing here is a manipulation of the American system of checks and balances, right? We've already established that that's what the deep state is. So what we have to understand is, first of all, we have a monarchy with the president. We have the aristocracy with the Senate, which, by the way, our state legislatures used to send senators to D.C. It's not the way that it is now. We need to change that back. And then you have the democracy, which is the House of Representatives. And then you have the judicial branch to keep all the checks and balances between all of these things. Now, that culture is one that is based on the it's based on the individual, right? Individual rights. Okay. So what has happened is that in this country, where once the individual has been propped up and educated and kept healthy, now the individual has been subverted through this deep state system. Everybody wants to know the truth. What has happened with all of these lies recently is it's created an appetite and a thirst for reality and truth. So what we have to do is make sure a couple of things. Number one, our populations are fully informed, fully well-armed, and fully well-fed. Okay? We don't have that currently. Okay? That is the solution. And it's going to, and kind of like what Yuri Bezmenov was saying about taking 20 years to do demoralization, it's going to take about 10 to 15 years to remoralize our society. I don't think, I like your idea. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm just saying that I think that the real answer is education and access to real information, which when the Trump administration released the JFK files, the RFK files, the MLK files, they were giving people access to real information.
Here's real information. Here's why the vote changed in the inner cities for Trump, because they filled up schools, like public schools and community centers, with Guatemalan immigrants. And the people there realized, that's why you saw like black women on TV suddenly saying, I've never done anything but Democrat politics my whole life, but I vote with my wallet. I vote to save my community. Yes, that's completely true. That's self-interest. We have to understand this is part of democracy, and it's going to be a much stronger part of democracy than any education you're ever going to give anybody. People in large groups will always vote to reflect their interests, and that's okay. That's fine, but we have to understand this.
But this is what I guess I'm trying to say is that we are lost because we follow blind leaders. We have people like Joe Biden that have been in office for 50 years, and somehow, some way, they still keep getting elected, right? Or, people like Pelosi or Schiff or whatever. I mean, these people, even rhinos like Romney. So to me, it's like, okay, the real issue, you guys, is lack of information and lack of education. If people understood what the deep state was, if people had access to real information.
I do want to push back on that. And the reason I want to is because there's never been a time in history where it was easier to get information.
But here's the thing about PSYOPs, though.
Hold on. The fact of the matter is, at least as far as I can see, is people aren't actually interested, right? If you look at the number of people that actually vote in off years versus the presidential elections, I don't know the numbers, but it's significantly lower. And I feel like that is an indicator that people actually aren't interested. And so when they go and they vote for president, right? They will do their team voting. Essentially, if they imagine themselves as a Democrat, they almost always will vote Democrat, and then they'll vote Democrat down ticket.
That's changing, though. I mean, this is the point. This is why they had to use suppression on Facebook and Twitter, why they had to censor people, because the truth was starting to win. That's why they tried to stop it. So I think we're defeating that because we're getting the truth out.
Do you think so? Do you think that it's because the information is available?
Yeah, and that's right. So I think that their suppression campaign failed. People still got the information they needed, and like we said before, because they pulled the mask off and becoming open totalitarians, they can see finally that they're actually right about that. There's something there. Why are they going after Trump so hard? Why are they committing unprecedented lawfare against him? There's something there. So they're starting to see that Trump is right. They start listening.
The internet
to him.
got out of control or whatever. They weren't able to control the.
And they tried to put it back in the box, but it didn't work.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of look at Melee in Argentina, right? Yeah. Look at what's her name in Italy. There's a populist upsurge all around the world against the elite. It's the elites versus the people, and I have a lot of faith in the average person. I think they've been dumbed down. Yes, they've been manipulated. But I think because of the free exchange of information we now have, I think we have a good chance now. If we don't abandon them and don't just say, okay, you're just too stupid to vote, I'm going to try to figure out a way for you not to vote. Instead say, hey, man, you've been duped your whole friggin' life, but come over here. Let's get it done.
I think
doesn't go well.
I do want to.
They have to be willing, ready, and able.
Well, sure.
Well, they're not. I don't believe these people in general. So many people are able to make informed decisions and guide the destiny of their country.
But
there needs to be less voting.
People are willing to change their behavior when they're uncomfortable.
We'll see.
They respond again to what is best for them in a material sense. And that's
what's wrong with that?
I think that it's okay to say, like, the idea of incentivizing people to not vote, right? And what I mean by that is making sure that the people that do vote actually really want to vote, really have a belief in what they're voting for, likely will have knowledge, right? Have information about what they're voting for. Now, that's not a guarantee of good outcomes. And I think one of the strongest indicators of that is if you look at the most politically active people in America, they're on the left, because the people that are on the right have jobs and they go to work and they focus on their family and they focus on themselves. People on the left tend to be activists. They tend to be people that
focus on the process.
Yeah. And exactly. And so you see a lot more activism on the left side than you do on the right. So it's completely possible that people that decide that they want to be active in the political process that you're talking about, the hypothetical that you're talking about, they say, well, I will give up whatever whatever incentive is given to not vote. And though the people that actually will do that would be the people that are the activists, the people that are the green activists, the people that are the people that have that kind of incentive.
I guess I've always been on the right because I didn't give a shit about politics most of my life. So,
well, that's one of the reasons. Excuse me. That's one of the reasons why the right kind of has the political results that they do, is because people on the right tend to work for their families. They work for their local communities. They're mostly in tune with the people that are close to them, whereas people on the left are very much politically motivated. They have causes that they're interested in, and people on the right, they want the option to opt out of politics. People on the left, they want the political process because
they want to show it off,
opting out.
They want to be involved.
Not opt out, but education is a meaningless word. Look, we have two sides,
means.
And
I know what it means too.
But what does it mean to people? Apparently, it doesn't mean much, because one side of politics in America, sex changes children. Like that's a real thing that happens now, and that's wild. Okay. But it didn't move the needle. Like when that was a public, children. Yeah. That didn't move the political needle. What moved it was inflation and material goods.
No, it helped move the needle too.
Maybe the reason why nobody wants to be informed is because the American culture, as far as politics is concerned, is so toxic. It's like, look, I think it was made toxic on purpose, to be honest with you. Because look at it like this, okay? Each side is believing a different misinformation narrative. Okay, I know this from experience, okay, because there's people on the right that were believing one thing about me that wasn't true, and there's people on the left that were believing another thing about me that wasn't true. So the idea here is that there's no real objectivity, there's no real objective reality, there is just the psyop. And so what we have with these news networks is a bunch of different psyop pushers, and we have people self-selecting themselves for these groups. And then that's why they're so tribal about it, because they chose to be a Democrat. They chose to be a Republican based on these talking points. That's all neurolinguistic programming. It's all based on psychological warfare and mind control, you guys. So what we have here is compartmentalized and propagandized groups of warring tribes all fighting over what misinformation is true.
I don't know that I agree that people are so easily pushed into one camp or the other. I think a lot of that is innate emotionally. I think that
what I'm talking about is regarding people that are in politics, though.
Well, but I still think that it's worth at least noting that people are not I'm very, very anti-blank slate, right? I'm very, very against that type of concept.
You mean no party affiliation?
Well, no, that people are just a blank slate. People are not a blank slate. People have
predispositions,
predispositions, different emotional states, and we're emotional creatures. We were emotional creatures long before we were able to reason and actually think like
godly
primates
beings,
or whatever you want to call it. So I think that a lot of people's political positions are based on their emotions, and then they rationalize afterwards. So that's honestly, studies have shown that people do have free will, but only if you take a second to stop and think. And most people don't take that second to stop. Your free will. When you hear a stimuli and then you react, you don't have free will. If you have a stimuli, take a moment to evaluate and process that stimuli, and then react. Then you're exercising free will.
Well,
and
that's
if you
what
just
psyops
react,
are
then
intended
you're
to do.
not.
That's
Actually,
what psyops are
cults-
intended to do, is to
cults,
stimulate emotion.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.